this is what we're into, all of us as journalists. We get into trouble because we tell stories. We're not the actors. We're just conveying things that have happened. So this is part of the story we intend to tell in this new book. And I want to thank you for supporting me all the years. I always cherish my relationship with the APC Press Corps. In 2014, 2015, we worked very closely. And with some of you, this relationship has continued to grow from strength to strength, and had even gotten to a point where you would say it is a deeply personal relationship, and I cherish it. And I also thank you for the support. For the 8 years we were in the villa, I've always leaned on you in group and in person for support in so many respects. I will not forget this. So today we assembled you today in order that I make this request again for support for this new book which Malam Sambo had introduced, entitled According to the President, Lessons from a Presidential Spokesperson's Experience. This is a book that seeks to achieve two things. We hope it will provide a reading material, a learning tool for students of communication, journalism practitioners, and researchers on the lessons learned from, I will say, many years of presidential communications. As he said in that brief introduction, you recall that I had served as spokesperson to former I should use the mic, that I had served as spokesperson to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar in President Olusegun Obasanjo's second term. Notwithstanding the fact that I was in office for only 6 months before the president fired me through a television statement. It was a testy period for me in my professional growth and career. But throughout the experience, when we had worked with Atiku, we were fighting others for his political survival. So this book tries to document those very tough, very rough moments we went through, not only for the vice president, but for those of us who were around him. I was arrested and detained several times by the DSS, and by the order of a judge, I was dumped into Kuje prison. My trial covering over 2 years, and eventual discharge and acquittal. I guess is something that should provide a heads up for many journalists and public relations practitioners. When he won the presidential primary in 2014, end of the year, President Muhammadu Buhari inherited all of the media assets of the candidates that he defeated in that primary. We were donated to him. Go and work for the candidate who won. And I must say that President Muhammadu Buhari had the grace at that time to appoint me as the director of the media campaign Director of Media of the Presidential Campaign Council. So from then onwards, and through those 8 years in the villa, we had a contrasting experience from what one had while serving in the Vice President's office. We were the ones who were being fought throughout. And as we say in Hausa, there's a proverb literally translating that if you eat mangoes, flies will attack you. So this book is building on what my colleague Femi Adesina and others have done, which is to authoritatively document the achievements and some of the historic decisions of the Buhari administration in 8 years. This book brings Muhammadu Buhari up close. How did he govern? What did he eat? What did he wear in terms of clothes for some occasions? And given his unique personal styles, President Muhammadu Buhari wasn't just a leader who just cut the ribbons and took pictures. He wanted his work to speak for him. He wanted to be at the doorstep of the poor, which he tried to do through the one and the first of its type, the Social Investment Program, SIP in Nigeria. His government made sincere efforts to improve the quality of life of the poor, farmers, the youths. Small promoters of small businesses and even traders in our local markets. In addition to strengthening the country's infrastructure, President Buhari also enhanced the nation's stature abroad. His government brought a new culture into government, a culture of personal integrity, and set new benchmarks in transparency with the institution of the Treasury Single Account, TSA, the BVN, the Tax Identification Number, TIN, IPPS, whistleblower, usage of the NIN, and the various other transparency-enhancing initiatives. While it is not possible to document all of the things that a government did in 8 years in a book that is just 260 pages, this book has tried to explain the work, the policies, and the programs undertaken by the administration in 8 years. It is not in doubt that President Muhammadu Buhari brought the country to a new pinnacle in the overall effort to lay the foundation for a strong and self-reliant and of course, united Nigeria. This book essentially is chapterized in this way. There are in all 10 chapters. Chapter 1 is about myself. It's not a personal biography. Let me make it clear. This book, according to the President, Lessons Learned, is not a personal biography. It is one, as I said, a guidebook written to inspire students who aspire to have a career in journalism and public relations. It is also, as I said, an authoritative account on what President Buhari did in 8 years in office. So this chapter contains the riveting experience of the author's eventual journey from underprivileged social and economic background with no privilege, no connection, rising from this level to the Nigeria seat of power, the Aso Rock, where he served as presidential spokesperson. I grew up in Dutse in Kano State, a driver's son. Even though one had a master's degree in communication, my life exemplifies the story of success without limits set by gender, ethnicity, religion, or region. Chapter 2, What Journalism Taught Me. This chronicles the comprehensive perspective on my journey from Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, first in Sokoto, and later in Lagos, the Network News Center, to Triumph Publishing Company, where I wrote from senior writer, steadily to the position of editor, general manager, and managing director, editor-in-chief. It speaks to the importance of freedom in guaranteeing human rights, free speech, leadership in the newsroom, how to protect reporters, how to protect sources of information, as well as the essence of mentorship for up-and-coming generation of journalists. Chapter 3, Political Communication 1.0. During his second term in office, President Olusegun Obasanjo declared war on his vice president, on the office of the vice president, in a major crisis that sent threats, including the fear of death, flying around. At some point, even the VP himself went underground, as you will read in the book. As the vice president's spokesperson, this author chronicles his experiences as a principal officer in the Obasanjo presidency, office of the vice president, and his subsequent expulsion, as I said, through television news, his life as a person of interest to the security services, a detainee in the DSS and the Kuje prison, and the story of the trial in court spanning over 2 years. It brings lessons to media practitioners and the politicians in their relationships with each other. Lessons on how to work with the media and society, the courts, and law enforcement agencies. Chapter 4, Keeping Records and Friends. This chapter seeks to enrich the workspace of journalists and public relations practitioners with lessons learned in record keeping and maintaining relationships. This chapter shares the importance of having good friends in all places and institutions, because you never know when you need them. For the journalism practitioner, there's a lot of power. There's enormous power in your decision to print or not to print, use a story or not to use it. And this is a power that you can use to build persons and institutions, conversely, to destroy persons or institutions. Chapter 5 is on the return to the villa, because it's miraculous and dramatic for one to, having been expelled from the villa, to come back by providence on even a higher grade that one had been brought back on an even higher rank, serving as spokesperson to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the country. This chapter delves into the interests and the intrigues that characterize the selection process, and how I, as a team player, literally walked on eggs throughout those 8 years without breaking, many of them in the service of President Muhammadu Buhari. Chapter 6 is on the person of President Muhammadu Buhari. This political narrative of Buhari provides an unbiased account of one of the most important political figures in Nigeria today. In 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari and his party, the APC, were victorious in capturing the presidency of the country from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, taking at the same time a comfortable working majority in the Senate and the House of Representatives. The victory marked a crushing defeat for the PDP, which had controlled the country's politics for 16 years hitherto, and sent a message that Nigerian citizens were behind the agenda to fight corruption, insecurity, and engender economic reforms. How did Buhari govern? The author, that's myself, analyzes President Buhari's values, his vision for Nigeria, his personal philosophy, the values that shape his thinking, the sort of national leader he was. Under him, he made serious efforts to decentralize power of the Federation and the central government compared to previous administration. Chapter 7, press statements and interviews. This is a chapter that will interest journalism and the PR professionals, hoping that they will take away some lessons in handling criticism. One of the greatest challenges that the president faced was that of perception. The president saw himself as painstakingly pursuing a major image makeover for Nigeria through various initiatives, but very many of his critics felt he was rather slow in doing that. They called him Baba Go Slow. He was a victim of the tyranny of expectations. But the government's handling of, our own handling of several issues came under criticism naturally from the opposition, and the digital media, which is growing each day in its impact and significance in our national life. For us, the approach was to take this criticism in the right spirit and to address the challenges they presented in as polite manner as we possibly could. Communications problems were identified and communications solutions offered to them in this book. We have chosen a sample of press releases and how we treated a sample of criticism and the press releases that we did in order to respond to those. And I'm sure a number of you and those who will come after us will find some of those experiences beneficial where they find themselves in similar situations. Chapter 8 is essentially containing briefings, compendiums, and many more things. This chapter reveals more of the hitherto unpublished, authenticated accounts of the successes of the 8 years of Buhari presidency, which makes this one of the most important books written on his 2 terms in office. It presents an insightful, exhaustive, and impeccably researched account of the Buhari era in a summary form. There's a discussion on the coming of strategic communications in the villa and the impact it made in the communications efforts of the presidency. Chapter 9 is attestations in their words. And this is a book that, in all respects, is analytical, informative, and academic in its approach. It comes packed with personal and anecdotes and shared experiences of a cross-spectrum of reporters and the editors in dealing with the author in his work as presidential spokesperson. It is engaging, thought-provoking, and timely. This book invites readers to reflect on the impact of humility and good interpersonal relationships in shaping government-media relations. Chapter 10 is postscripts. Rats, spin, and all that. This discusses the risks and challenges of spinning stories. And the second part following this is a high-wired essay contributed by one of the most respected teachers in communication in the country. It brings lessons to scholars, researchers, and journalism practitioners, and also PR practitioners on the need to control spin. I was going to open, I think these things were never closed, Buhari Atiku. They have always been there in the public space, and my sense is that there is a duty to also tell our own side of the story. Atiku went through a lot, but while serving him, we also saw hell in some respect. So I think there's a duty to document some of those things, so that, as I said, those who will come after us and will find themselves in positions like that will learn from our own experiences and manage their situations better. But the idea is not to start a fight between any two or more people, but to document things that truly happened and that also had a bearing on our lives. Jude, you said maybe after 2 years there are things that we see that should not have been done, or for instance, we said NIN would curb kidnapping and it escalated. Well, let me say that government is an ongoing process. And so it keeps moving from one plane to another. And to address the issue of NIN in particular, I would say that the institution of NIN and its demand for some of these, for telephone usage in the country was a commendable and helpful measure. I will tell you from my experience, when I was in the office, I kept getting calls from one group or person, I don't know who, asking me for financial assistance. And I did a little that I could. And the guy called to say, is this all that you can do? And he said that something will happen to me and my family if I didn't give him more money. So I got angry and I was going to fire, hot words to him. But I said, no, let me see if I can lure this man out and see what we can. So I used I said, look, I will help you. What is your problem? Come forward. It turned out that he's a student in the University of Maiduguri who had challenges with his finances and was using threats to extort money from people. So, but how did I get to know this and find out? So I sent him some more money through the bank. And he went to the bank and collected it. And he called to thank me, and I said, I can even do more for you if you can meet me. He said that he's on his way to Abuja at some point, so you can see the naivety. So I said to him, okay, let's meet. When he came to Abuja, he called me, and I said, so let's meet at Shagalunku. They have a shop in addition to the restaurant, so that I can buy you food stuff, since this is essentially a problem. So I informed the police, and they sent a man in plain clothes into the Shagalunku. At the hour that we agreed to meet, ahead of my going there, they wore plain clothes and they were like shoppers inside. So this guy just walked into the place and presented himself at the desk. And he said, I'm so person, I've come to collect foodstuffs this person had paid for me. So they grabbed him and they took him away. And when they interrogated, they found that he was in a group of about 5 persons who were extorting money, writing letters, and they recovered about 400 letters from them. And this was the thing they were doing. So they took him away. After a while, interrogations and investigations, then the police called me to say, what did I want? Did I want him prosecuted? I said, no. He's a young man. If you can preach to him, to be a better person, let him go. Let him not lose his education. Let him continue in. So they said they will let him go. But unbelievably, in between the time the police came back to me, the imam of his mosque in Ankpa, Benue State, had called me to say, our son is entangled with you on an issue. Can you please? So this is the kind of thing that we have. So I'm sorry I'm diverting from your question, but the point is that NIN works. The problem is when we are in government, Nigerians simply don't use it. But as we speak today, I know that as we left it, and probably it may even have been improved. If I lift this telephone, I make a call today, the Minister of Communications, NCC, will know exactly from the point I'm making this call. They can track me to the point of service by MTN and say you are within this. So, and they did a lot of that, and I believe they are continuing to do that. Integrity of Buhari, how did it differ? Because I said he had integrity. Well, let me not preempt the content of my book. No, so that you will buy it. Otherwise, I'm not going to make a full disclosure. But did I tell you? I said this book is about what did he even eat? What did he wear? Sometimes you call Buhari will appear for interview. What would he wear? Or the gift somebody offers him, exotic kind of gift. What did he do? Did he take or did he reject? I don't want to preempt the content of my book, but his lifestyle exemplifies personal integrity, and I'm happy that nobody, up to today, nobody can say, I've given bribe to Buhari. There's corruption in the country. There was corruption in our government. I know there is corruption. However, as a person, Buhari was above all of that. And that's the thing of pride to us. At the most, he said some people are saying Buhari's years, they said they were wasted years. You know, we, in this country, we don't like our leaders, especially when they're in office. They will love you before you come into the office. When you are there, they just attack and attack and attack. And after a while, then they will begin to reflect and say, is this how this man is? Is this how he was? You know, there is a Chinese philosopher who said, two of the mightiest forces in life are time and patience. Time and patience. So give it time with patience. People will see in due course whether Buhari gave his best and did well for the country or he did not. Again, let me not preempt my book. Read it. Buhari served well, and history will be kind to him. Shegun, security issues. How did he handle security issues? Again, the book has so much on that. All I will say is that Buhari faced, when he came in, the big issue for the country was Boko Haram terrorism. And it was largely confined to the Northeast. By 2016, he had rid Borno State of Boko Haram and Yobe and Adamawa. Boko Haram was on the fringes of Lake Chad and operating from across the border, some of the cases. Some little islands around Lake Chad. So, and the father had a crisis, of course, was present when he was there, but this is something that had been there. If you read this country's history from colonial times, this is a problem that had existed. And he did his bit in trying to curtail the clashes between the farmers and herders. He tried to introduce ranching. Some governors didn't trust him on that. We didn't allow, they said not on their soil. And I believe the government that succeeded him, the Tinubu administration, is also taking that route again, because the belief is that this is the only way. Take away all the cattle from the fields and confine them. Last week I was reading, they said 11 states of the Federation accepted ranching. So we are making progress, and I hope we'll get there. But security challenges keep transforming. from one thing to another, and there will always be challenges for all nations and for all governments. And the difference that they all make is how do they respond to those challenges? You know, Northwest exploded in kidnapping of and cattle rustling and all of that. And as president, he did a lot to curtail it. And this problem is still with us today. And the government we have is doing its best to see how it can end all of these things. Who knows? Maybe by the time President Tinubu finishes his own, the government that will come, what are the problems they will face? What is the next challenge? Maybe it is AI, artificial intelligence. Maybe it is machines that will become journalists, and all of you will not be doing anything. So the challenges will continue to transform and transmute. And we don't know where we're going from here. But they, yeah, my very old friend, you know, that Atiku, let me say this. When we campaigned, as I said, I took Atiku to the primary. And we lost that one. And so, as I said, Buhari had the grace to call me to be the director of his media. But this was when all of the campaign, all of those who lost the primary, Ashwaju Tinubu didn't run, but Konkoso was there, Rochas Okoracha, Sam Nda Isaiah, and who else? Atiku Abubakar. So yes, Atiku. So all of them said they were donating their campaign assets, including Ashwaju Tinubu, to the winner of the primary. And that's how we came together. That's how we formed, you know, the campaign, the media campaign team, with the assets from Ashwaju, from Atiku, from Rochas, from everyone, Abga, you know. So we were donated to him, and he had, as I said, the grace to make me his director of campaign. And we won. We ran a very decent campaign because we didn't go into the gutter. I remember then, you know, they really wanted us to go into the gutter and fight dirty. But we fought a clean campaign. And we are fortunate also because Nigerians wanted that change. And I want to say with humility, we didn't invent that entire thing. The support we get, social media, and even the formal institutional media, some was flowing naturally from Nigerians. We didn't buy it. And I used to tell the campaign council, whoever comes to you to say, pay me, that I'm the one who is bringing all this support, tell him he's a liar. Because we were swimming in the direction of the wind. Because the people loved that change and what we were saying. And they loved our candidate. And we won overwhelmingly. So that's how I served. Why would I not attack Atiku when I served Buhari? You learn from people. When Abiola election was annulled by IBB, and he eventually died, and before all of that, did any one of you hear the presidential spokesman at that time? May his soul rest in peace. Did you ever hear him attack Abiola as he walked with President Buhari? So you learn from people. And the common sense, as I said, is if I was with Buhari and I attacked Atiku, how would Buhari then trust me? Because he knows that one day I'm going to change another master and I will go after him. So, and that's why I said in this book, I walked on eggs. Because you had to just be careful, because even as you worked for the president who trusted you, there were people around him who didn't just see that trust in you. who still saw you, they said, this is an Atiku boy. What? That was the one who came out of his office. And he said, they told me, they said, the one who just left said this to the president. President, do you remember, do you recall, this man is an Atiku boy. So you had to live with that. But the important thing is the president trusted you and you're working for his interest. And it worked well for me as a team with Femi as we did it. I think I will stop on this one and then let me take the last.
Okay, thank you very much. Naturally, you feel like this.
Okay, John Chooks. I hope I did. Next time you stand for election, I hope I will do more to support you so that I don't get into trouble. I don't want to get into Adam Oshomole's trouble. We all know him. He's a fighter. And I'm not an economist either. So I cannot pretend to knowing things that I don't know. However, from my superficial knowledge of things that happened after, during and after COVID-19, you know that globally, every nation of the world went into recession. Except China. But China's growth trajectory was also much reduced. There's no nation, go and check UK, US, they all printed money in order to come out of recession. They all borrowed money and spent, threw money at problems so that they could come out of. And to the glory of God, Nigeria, if I am correct, was, I think, one of the earliest, possibly number 2, to have come out of COVID-induced recession. People who are stopped from going out, what would they have eaten? Please, Adams, see, I don't want to see what happened to Air Peace when they stood in this way. Don't put me in this. Don't put me in this. But they should ask economists this question. And we know what happened after COVID. And it was, Buhari didn't do things to undermine this country. He could not have. Buhari, I believe, still left with his integrity intact. And this is the pride I had in serving him. Because no journalist will call me at 11, 12 p.m. to say, we are going to press, we have a story which says your boss has stolen money. What is your reaction? I slept very soundly throughout my 8 years with the Buhari presidency. His integrity is still intact. He's in London. Will he be here for the book launch? He has the program. We've been speaking to Buhari. We've been speaking to his team over there. And we'll be getting green light on every, including this press conference. Go ahead, proceed. Would he be here in person? Would he be here virtually? I don't know. But Buhari has accepted the invitation to officiate at this book launch. I had briefed him in Kaduna, I had briefed him in London, and we're looking forward to having him on the 9th when we do this event. Friday, you said certificate. Did I address the issue of his certificate in the book? No, I didn't go into that because it's a matter that has been resolved a long time ago. See, it was politics that dictated. This man was military secretary, and he had the distinction of putting the records of the entire officer corps of the Nigerian Army into proper perspectives. He made sure that the documentation for every officer of the Nigerian Army was in good order. How could he have done that for everyone and failed to do it for himself? The officer from Lokoja Army Records Office, I hope you know what happened to him afterwards. Because the military authorities reviewed his conduct after Buhari became president, after the election was won, and the PDP people who put him forward to go and tell that falsehood. Buhari didn't have WAEC. And you know, in fact, when we produced the results, eventually, and the controversy died. But you know that Government College Katsina was also set on fire. Thank God we had received, otherwise the registry was set on fire and they burnt it. But by that time we had collected Buhari's WAEC. And not only that, we also got from London, because then it was West Africa, it was generated from London. The certificates were coming from London, not even from local offices here. So it's a spent issue. We had, and they punished that officer. And even those who worked with him, and I'm aware that they didn't get away with that because they subjected themselves to use by politicians. Jide, this Ruben has to come back to Villa to show where the spirit is. Because this story has refused to go. With each administration, they say there are spirits there, and then they change people, and they change you. Now what you see, other people don't see. To be honest with you, I have seen no spirits in the Villa. We have suffered no spiritual attacks. Yeah, President Buhari fell ill and fully regained his health. Then, at some point, I used to hail his good health as being even better than what he had before he got into the villa. So this parable of the spirit in the villa, I think should go back to Ruben. He needs to unscramble it. Kwanga, sorry, you said that the 6, that whether I was there for 6 months or what was the offense that, for which I was removed? Yes. I think President Obasanjo convinced himself that there cannot be bad story about him in any newspaper, except that it is generated by someone. That someone will have told the newspaper to tell that bad news. I think that's the environment in which we operated. So he and Atiku were boxing each other below the radar at that time. And you know, around power also, there's a lot of gossiping going on. It depends on the kind of leader you had. Otherwise, storytellers will come and say all sorts of things about people around him, undermining this, promoting that one. So in any case, I was the first to have been fired on the basis that the news magazine did a cover story for the week in which I was fired. Bayo Onadiga, yes. Yes. And Bayo had, anyway, is my friend. And I'm not sure anybody will accuse me of being the one who gave him that story. But they did a nasty cover on Obasanjo's government. And I guess people told Obasanjo that I was Bayo's friend, and I informed the story, that I gave the story. This is what I learned. And unfortunately, the agent who did this thing was somebody very close to me. and may the person's soul rest in perfect peace, because we have lost that person. So we were in Jos. We had finished from NIPS, Bosanjo, and so when we came back, they just called me. I was just resting myself at home. They called me and said, some friend from NTA said, we are going to announce your resignation tonight in 9 o'clock news. I said, which resignation? I have resigned. He said, no, but we have a letter saying you have resigned. I said, okay. So they announced it on television. So that's what happened. Ajayi said, look, this is, they used to call it beer parlor talk. But the beer parlor has moved to social media now, because the digital space is so full of these things. Do you know that there is a member of the House of Reps now who used to have an office at, what do they call this hotel? Near the Defense, across the road. Huh?
Minister of Defense?
Opposite Defense Headquarters. No, not Chelsea.
Agora.
Abuja, that's the one. He used to have an office in Abuja. And his business then was, if you have an issue with the government or with the National Assembly and you want people to demonstrate, in that office they had people who are doing graphic arts for placards and billboard and all of these banners, and they will do uniform for demonstrators, and then they will go to markets around the city. They will go to Karu, they will go to Gwagwalada, and for 3,000 naira, people will line up and fill your buses. That's what they used to do. They will go National Assembly, they will go and populate crowds and do demo at National Assembly, central area, and all of that. So when you have people, it does, because they are Hausa speaking or Lole educated, they mustn't come from Niger. In any case, see, if you go to the border, Buhari's house is about 6 kilometers to the border. In places like that, you will have somebody, he's a citizen of Nigeria, his family is in Niger Republic. Or his wife is from Nigeria and the man is in Niger Republic. Because these people are culturally the same. So the fact that they are Nigerians or people are demonstrating and they will keep saying they are from Niger Republic. And how did Buhari win his election? Are they saying also that the PVCs were given to people in Niger Republic? The voters card. It was the most scientific election that we ever had in this country. And President Muhammadu is proud all the time to say that